Welcome to the Everyday Creative Podcast. We are two creatives that will discuss our own creative journeys, mental health, and a little bit of everything in between. Oh yeah, we're married too. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to the Everyday Creative Podcast. I'm Cameron.
And I'm Bryce.
And this is our first audio-only episode. So if you are coming from YouTube, we welcome you
Yes.
to the Spotify or Apple Podcast side of things. We are currently traveling. We're at the beach. We're coming back from the beach as we're recording this podcast, and we wanted to kind of try out this audio-only format because that might be something that we want to try in the future.
Yeah, see if you guys like that.
Yeah, so let us know what you think about it. But today we have an interesting topic to talk about. Maybe a little bit too late, but we're going to talk about it anyways. But first, how you doing, Bryce?
I'm doing really good. We're driving back from a trip. We were at the beach for a couple days. So I'm feeling relaxed, rejuvenated, ready to take on the world.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But it was a nice time, so I'm doing really good. How about you?
I'm doing good too. I really enjoyed, it was like a little mini vacation, and it was fun. So got in my beach time for the year, so I feel content
We
with
both
that.
got burnt to a crisp.
We did. Just a little PSA. Don't use spray sunscreen because we really applied it the way that it was instructed to apply it, and it did not work for us.
No,
So,
I got burnt, and I usually don't burn at all.
and it was also on the first day, so that made the next couple of days a little uncomfy.
Yeah.
You're looking better though.
Yeah, I'm turning into tan.
I'm still...
You're still red.
My legs look striped. Like, I feel like now that it's kind of set for a couple days, you can literally see where the spray marks were.
Yeah.
And you can see the parts that just, didn't get it. So, we've learned our lesson, and moving forward, we'll just use, the lotion.
Just use the lotion.
But, yeah, so what kind of creative were you this week?
I was, again, a busy creative. I was getting a lot of work done before we traveled. I did some work on our travel. But, yeah, I was busy. The vacation was nice to kind of reset my brain. But, yeah, so that's not much to update on, but that's where I'm at. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like I was a little creative over this weekend. We took a little bit of photos and stuff, but I was pretty busy last week, prepping for the trip, because you were working and you were a busy creative, and I was making sure that we were prepared and organized and everything. So, yeah, I don't really remember, to be honest. I feel like the beach felt like a full week, so I don't even know what day we're at right now, to be honest.
And we went over the weekend mostly, so it all feels weird.
Yeah. So, we're going to, before we jump into things, do our random generated question.
Just to kick it off?
I don't have Siri on.
That's fine. You can just...
Well, do you want me to turn it on real quick?
No, it's fine. Just scroll.
Okay, why don't you pick a number between one? Because I know what these questions are.
Yeah,
so.
Okay. So I'll just say 42.
Okay, 42. What plot of a movie would you want to live out?
Oh, man, that's a hard one. What plot of a movie would I want to live out? Do you have one off the top of your head?
Well, there's just one that popped into my mind.
Yeah, what's that?
The Amazing Spider-Man.
And which character
Gwen.
would you be? Okay. You do know that what happens in The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, but but that's not the plot of the movie.
Oh, okay.
It's one movie. And that is a good,
I see.
you know,
Okay.
I can't, you know, Spider-Man.
I see.
Falling in love with Spider-Man seems, no offense, Bryce.
That's fine. It's all good.
This is just like
I understand. Andrew Garfield is a very attractive man.
I said Spider-Man, not necessarily Andrew. But
Which movie would I like to live out? All the movies I like are really dark and depressing usually, so none of those. I don't know why The Notebook came to mind. That's definitely that's not what I really want, but
surprising.
I think I've had Ryan Gosling on my mind.
Oh.
Just thinking about his career.
So would you be the love interest of Ryan Gosling?
Oh yes, that's exactly. I don't really know exactly. Do you have That's kind of tough. I blanked on all these movies. Yeah. I'll just say The Notebook.
Okay,
that's what popped into my. It's random.
That's really random.
I'm not saying that's my real answer, but that's what popped in my head.
Well, you know what movie plot I wouldn't want to live out?
Which one?
The plot of The Challenger.
No, you wouldn't want to be in that movie?
So that is the movie that we're going to be talking about, reviewing today.
Yes.
So, yeah, we watched this movie before the beach. So we've really had a few days.
We have.
To let it sink in, to process it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think my initial thoughts versus my thoughts now are a bit different.
Oh, okay. I'm excited to hear.
So, for those of you, I don't have interesting facts and Bryce doesn't either.
Well, you don't know
driving.
That.
Oh, do you?
I just off the top of my head.
Well, I'll offer one interesting fact. This is a movie that stars Zendaya. You know,
the Queen.
If you don't know, now you know that she is one of my celebrity crushes. So,
yes,
she's iconic, and I admire her. So, yeah, and isn't this kind of like her, like one of the, she's usually put in like a supporting character
This
role.
is the first movie that she is a lead of.
This is also one of the first movies that she's like, that's been big where she actually plays an adult. Now, she also plays a teenager in parts of it, but
yes,
it was like a big deal that she was playing somebody like
she's finally aging herself up. Yeah.
All right, do you have any interesting facts about this movie, Bryce?
Not really. Because of the strikes, the SAG and WGA strikes, this movie was supposed to come out last September. Around the same time Dune was coming out. Was supposed to come out. Which also stars Zendaya. It is directed by Luca Guadagnino, who has also directed things like Bones and All, Call Me By Your Name. He's won multiple Oscars, or at least been nominated for multiple Oscars. This movie stars Zendaya, as previously mentioned, Mike Feist, Josh O'Connor, Zendaya's personal assistant.
Yeah, we saw it. I didn't realize that when we watched it until after the fact, and I guess that his name's Darnell, right?
Yeah.
That he was just kind of there, and they needed to put somebody in for just like practicing or getting a feel for the scene, and then they were like, I guess the director was like, actually, do you want to do this role? And he was like, if Zendaya's okay with it, I'm cool with it. And of course she was. So
yeah, and he was cool. Great. I really liked his personality, so
yeah,
good move. Other than that, I don't really have many fun, fast facts.
The writer.
The writer, Justin. I want to say Kurowitz, but I don't think that's right. That's a composer. Justin something. He's married to Celine Song. I'll just refer to him as Celine Song's husband. He wrote this.
Yeah. And if you have listened to any of our podcasts, if you listen to our Oscar podcast, then you know that we loved Past Lives, which was written by Celine Song.
We are Celine Song stans.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this, because we've had a couple days to let it sink in. What was your initial reaction to the movie?
My initial reaction was... What was my initial reaction?
These were Bryce's words, since he doesn't remember. I loved that movie.
Oh, okay.
So do you remember
okay,
that?
yeah. I remember feeling like, I don't know if this movie is specifically for me. It's not typically the movie that I would gravitate towards. But I feel like it's this type of movie working at the best level it can. It's really sharply written. And it's well directed. It looks great. It's very well acted. Extremely well acted. And it's kind of a masterwork of the type of movie that it is. But it's not necessarily a movie that is for me, I guess. But I liked it.
Yeah.
So I loved the technical aspects, and from an objective point of view, I think it's really great. It gets like a good on my personal level.
Yeah, so I was a little like apprehensive to love this movie. I feel like that was what I was feeling initially coming out of the theater, because Bryce, you were like,
I was gushing.
You really loved it, and I was like, I don't know if I did. And I think I was just apprehensive because of the like some of the concepts in the movie, just in the sense of like, you know, when you take away all the details, when you take away all the, you know, camera work, the directing, the writing, it is a love triangle through and through. And I sometimes don't love triangles in like movies and shows and stuff. I told you on the way back from the movie, I was like, I think I blame Disney Channel for that, because they love to write love triangles for like 2 seasons, and you were like, can we just move on already?
Wait, were you a Jesse or a Jake girl in Hannah Montana?
I was too little.
Oh, you're too little? Okay.
Yeah. I was too little. I can't give a specific, like, I don't remember a ton from Hannah Montana.
If
that was really
there
little.
are any
Which one's which?
Zillennials out there.
Which one did you like?
I liked Jesse more.
I liked Jesse. He was like the edgy one, right?
The edgy rock star.
That's the one I liked. Because Jake was like...
He cheated on her.
Annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just looked annoying. Anyways, that's not the point of this
If there's any
podcast.
Zillennials out there that want to weigh in on this, I want to know what your thoughts are. But team Jesse.
But that's who she was with longer, right?
No, she was with
Towards
Jake.
the end, though, right?
Towards the end, she was with Jesse.
She was older. So my initial thoughts is I was a little unsure about how I felt about it. And so my initial review was I give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. Has that updated?
I think so. So here's a few reasons why, because as we were talking about it, I realized that some of the things that I wasn't sure about were like intentional choices that were made. So, but I'll first start with just saying, like, yeah, technical wise, the movie looked really good. There's one scene though, if you struggle with vertigo, like, maybe don't watch that scene.
Yeah.
It gets you a little dizzy because there's a lot of you
become the
you
ball.
become the ball, the tennis ball. So like you're kind of going back and forth, but it's really cool how the writers, directors used the writer and then the director executed it, but like used tennis to tell this story, and kind of like whoever, I don't know if this is spoilers, so possibly a spoiler alert. So
We're just gonna start talking spoilers now.
I mean, this is a
it's
big
been out
movie,
for a while.
But like, there's this present day match going on between the two boys that are ultimately kind of best friends, but also fighting over Zendaya's character Tashi, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but then it goes back in time to kind of show how this friendship, relationship, love triangle formed. And so in present day, whoever's winning the match in the past is also kind of winning her over. And so it's interesting just how they like add that intensity to like this story by making it this like competitive tennis match. And there's like this, because in tennis there's like this back and forth, so there's like this back and forth in this relationship as well. So I think that was really interesting, and just the way that it was like shot and everything like that. And I thought the acting was great. All of that, like, so obviously Zendaya, I love her, and she's been in a lot, but when you watch this movie, you don't even look at her as Zendaya. Like,
No.
she is that character, because I think the character's kind of like opposite of her, maybe her regular personality or what we know of Zendaya. And then the other guy, what's the guy who played Prince Charles?
Josh O'Connor.
Yes, so he was in The Crown, but I didn't see him as that. I saw him as that character. So I thought that was really well done, and it was really interesting. And there were like some things that I wasn't sure of how they told the story when I first watched it, but I think now that it's kind of sit with me, and like as we talked about it, like, you know, there was intentional things. Like, the one thing I can think of is afterwards I was like, I didn't feel like Zendaya acted with her eyes in the way that she normally does, but Tashi, her character, is kind of cold-hearted in some ways, and so maybe that was intentional to show. And then whenever she did act with her eyes, it was showing that there was this like that this act, like this, whatever happened got through to her.
Yeah.
And that shows like some character. The one thing with this movie is there's not really a character arc, at least not after the first watch did I see one, because that's not the point of the
point of the movie is really showing that these three people are very, very toxic people, but they can't live without each other, even though they should live without each other. It's just this toxic triangle that keeps the world spinning.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too to think about, especially if you're going to go see this movie, or have seen it, is like, when we first watched it, I was like, so what's the like purpose of what's the purpose of telling this story? But I think there's different types of movies, because we've watched a lot of movies recently, especially in like the 2023 year, that had these like deep meanings, that were like commentaries on society that made you think and reflect. But this movie is just genuinely there to like entertain you, and it's just to capture a story of three people. There's nothing that you walk away going like, oh, I should at least maybe, unless you're like them, then maybe you should self-reflect on it, but because they're a little toxic together.
I think it also was created to spark like certain emotions and feelings in you. Like, it's intense. The score like is driving and pounding. The tennis matches are very intense, so it's more of a spectacle piece, kind of. It's like watching a sport.
Yes. There's definitely, I want your opinions on this. But, you know, the movie, or the trailers and the reviews and everything, or like, I don't know, whatever, you know, headlines or whatever about this movie, it makes it seem extremely sexual. But I will say, we are done trusting trailers over here.
Yes.
On the Creative Podcast.
Die trailers die.
It's consistently happened where the trailers are nothing what you, like, the movie's not what you expect based on the trailers. And so there's definitely like a sexual tension between these three. It's a love triangle. There's gonna be. But it's not exactly what you imagine it to be.
No.
It's actually very different. And like, there was a moment in the movie, which I'm not gonna spoil it, because if you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
It's a great moment.
Where like, we literally looked over at each other and we were like, well, that's not where I thought this was going.
But it's a great moment. I found it very funny.
Yes.
Not because of the content, but kind of just it exceeded my
You just weren't expecting it.
No, I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, it undermined my expectations, because I thought it was going to be one thing and it happened out to be another, and I was like, oh,
they surprised you.
Okay.
They surprised you. So but there's definitely some there's some underlying messages happening throughout the movie.
Well, there's a lot of sexual tension.
So I think here's where I'm at in my review. I think I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
But I don't think that this is necessarily, as it sit with me, also, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little biased because I really do like Zendaya.
Mm-hmm.
But, sorry, I keep saying, today, because
I do as well.
My brain just is not working. So now everybody's gonna be listening for it. Anyways.
We should have a dinger every time you say the L word.
No,
it'll be like,
ding. I don't want to know how many times I say it. Anyways, what was I saying though?
About Zendaya, you're biased.
Yes, I'm biased about it, but I would also say that my rating is more of trying to be more objective, because personally, it's not like I would list that as one of my favorite all-time movies, because the concept's just not what I would normally watch.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What's your rating now?
If we're going by, we can only do by the 0.5 margin. I think I would have to go 4 out of 5, but I would really love to give it a 4.25 out of 5. But I'm comfortable with saying 4 out of 5. I like you, really loved Zendaya's performance. I think this movie was really pivotal for her.
Yes.
In her career, because it's kind of been talked about in the trades and in the industry. Can Zendaya lead a movie? She's great as a supporting role, like in Euphoria and Dune and all this other work she's been doing. But can she lead it? And the answer is an easy yes.
Yeah.
So she kills it. Mike Feist is somebody I haven't seen too much of, and he really killed it as art. So did Josh O'Connor. I think both of those guys should be watched closely, because they are going to be the next big movie stars, I think. They're coming up in the game.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that so the other thing about Zendaya is she produced this movie.
Yeah.
So now she's produced other, she produced Casey Undercover, which if you know that, then...
You're a real fan.
Yeah. But I think that she's now moving also into a place where, she was saying in an interview that I watched, that when you're producing a movie that you're also starring in, you get more of a say. And so we're going to, see how, as she stars in these roles, and if she produces them as well, the creative, you're going to see her in that movie, Zendaya's creativity and her expression kind of throughout it. And I think the more people give her the freedom to do that, the more she shines personally. But again, I love Zendaya. And yes, the boys in that movie, she was part of the team that found those two guys.
Yes. And it's a huge praise to say that in a movie with Zendaya in it, she did not overshadow them.
No.
They were all equal.
Yeah, that's very true. It felt like you were watching two actors who have been famous just equally as, her, or just famous, for a while. They did a great job.
They did.
So
And
we'll see what else they end up in.
Out of the Luca Guadagnino movies, this isn't my favorite. I think Call Me By Your Name might still be my favorite. I did like this better than Bones and All. Bones and All was an interesting Timothée Chalamet movie. So yeah, I think this is a great Luca film though. Yeah, technically great. The score is perfect. I love it so much.
So to get back into spoilers a little bit.
Yeah.
When we initially watched this movie, we were like, man, poor Art. It's one of the characters. Poor him, poor guy. How he's just, and yeah, he had his moments, but he was kind of just being manipulated and all of this stuff. But, I watched some interviews, and Zendaya encouraged everyone, and she said, it's honestly not publicity stunt. Like, she's like, I encourage everybody to go watch it a second time, because everybody's always like, poor art until they watch it a second time, and then they're like, oh. And, like, she's like, and when you watch it a third time, your opinion will change, because you're going to start to see characters in a different way. So I'd be curious for us to go and watch it again and see kind of how we view each character.
Yeah.
And how we view their love triangle, because right now it's like, I think it'll always be manipulative and toxic, but who's the center of that?
Yeah.
When we first watched it, it was like Tashi was the center of that she was the one, the driving force and in control. But what other dynamics were involved in that?
Yeah.
I think would be really interesting.
I also think that this movie's really going to find its home on streaming.
Yeah.
Not many people have seen this movie.
Yeah.
The numbers aren't great. The box office numbers aren't doing so hot. And that can be for a plethora of reasons. But I really feel like once it hits, I think it goes on Prime first. I think once it hits Amazon Prime, it's going to find a new fan base. And then it'll pick up from there when people start making TikToks about it and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like how Saltburn didn't do well at all in the movie theater, but then whenever it hit Amazon, everybody wanted to see that movie.
Yeah. I also kind of think we already are seeing this. I mean, if you walk into Target, you're already seeing it, but I think it's going to be the trend of the summer, like country club aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that is definitely would be attributed to challengers. Because obviously we saw after Barbie, pink became the color of the year, really.
Yeah.
Even like weddings, like people were in Barbie pink, and I think we're gonna kind of see a little bit of like a cultural phenomenon. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I want the outfits that like Zendaya is wearing.
Oh yeah, the shoes, outfits.
The shoes, I want the tennis look, like. And I'm not usually one to jump on trends. We just talked about that, I think, like last episode or something like that. But for some, like, it looks comfortable, it looks fun for the summer, and I think it's just gonna be like a cultural phenomenon once people watch it on streaming and really like it gets picked up by the trendy folks out there. I think we're gonna start to see. I mean, there's already like pickleball aesthetic at Target. Yeah. I think we're gonna see. I've seen some like golf aesthetic. I think we're just gonna kind of see that world of like golf and pickleball and tennis kind of really pick up and kind of become a aesthetic. And so I think it's interesting.
I'm fine with that though. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though just to see like there's gonna be so many movies that come out this year and all of that, but it's interesting to see which like trends grab onto and how it can impact the trends and can impact like, I don't know. Well, question, do you think this will be an Oscar nominated film?
I do. I don't know what for yet because, I mean, obviously we haven't seen all the films of this year and there's still a lot to come out. Also, side note, this year isn't the greatest year for films so far. So I feel like it's going to be a weird year for the Oscars. I think there's a strong possibility that this gets nominated for Best Picture. I'm not sure. Zendaya will probably get nominated. One of the boys will get nominated for supporting.
Yeah.
Luca will probably get nominated for Best Director. I'm not sure though. Depends on if there's more films to come out that are driving. The score will definitely get nominated and probably win. But Dune 2 will also get nominated and probably could win.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is up against Dune Part 2, so this is going to be Zendaya's year at the Oscars anyway.
So excited. No, but it's kind of crazy because, so Dune 2 and this movie was supposed to come out in 2023, right?
Oh, that would have been, yes,
like,
it was.
Imagine, like, the Oscars was already so stacked last year, and so we'll see what it looks like this year, but it's kind of interesting. I feel like it would just have been crazy if they were also.
It would have been insane. I don't feel like a lot. So I have thought about this.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot would change. even if Challengers and Dune Part 2 were in the Oscars this past year. I think Oppenheimer still would have swept the main categories. Dune Part 2 would have swept some of the smaller categories like cinematography. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm excited for this year's Oscars, and Challengers will be there.
You think so?
I do. I'm predicting it.
So yeah, I think overall it was a good movie. I really do want to watch it again.
I do too.
Because I feel like it was just, I want to like get into this in a little bit, but just having like a different theater experience as well.
Yeah.
This is another PSA for everybody out there. If you decide to go to the movies with your friends because you want to socialize and talk through the entire movie, maybe go to like a restaurant or a coffee shop or somewhere where other people aren't there trying to enjoy the movie, because we had a few people in our theater who came in and were talking at the top, like, full volume
about how they've gone through every guy on Tinder and they can't find a good one.
Yes, and thinking that questioning if Austin Butler was hot.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I almost responded to them, but I decided I should have. I really should have, so just like maybe they would have been quiet during the movie, but they were not. They talked pretty much all the way through it.
I would have told them he's really hot in Dune Part 2. They probably had not seen Dune Part 2, so...
So I guess, like, my thing is, if you're not really there to watch the movie, don't make it a poor experience for other people. But obviously, if you guys are listening to our movie review, then you're there to watch the movie.
A small nudge or a whisper, that's fine. Just don't have a full-on conversation.
Yeah, and don't sit in the front if you're gonna, like, be
For
distracting.
real, yeah.
But yeah, so I would love to actually, I think maybe we'd wait till streaming, but I wouldn't mind just going again to the theater and having a better experience where I didn't feel as distracted by people in the theater.
And I would love to heed Zendaya's advice and watch it from a different perspective.
Well, I don't even think she was saying we need to, like, watch it from a different perspective.
No.
She's just saying it will.
Yeah.
Like, you'll just realize things that you missed during the first watch, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
But yeah, I recommend watching it. I think it's a great film. I feel like if you go into it just expecting a well-crafted summer movie, you'll walk out pretty satisfied.
Yeah. I think it'll surprise you in some ways, but I think it's going to be talked about, so it's a movie to see for sure. So, any other thoughts?
Not really. I just love how, because we did kind of go into the movie based on the trailers thinking it was going to be sexual, and
I was a little unsure going into it.
I really like how the writer and the director kind of blurred the lines between where sex ends and tennis starts, and where, like, because there was no line for Tashi or any of the boys. It was all, at least mostly for Tashi, it was very, like, connected.
Yeah.
So that's why the tennis matches were very, not explicit, but they were, like, sexually infused.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting watch.
It's just to show the dynamic of their relationship.
Yeah.
That it is both a relationship as well as, like, a game for them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all my thoughts. I really enjoyed it. Recommend to you guys.
Yep. Well, that was the shortest episode ever. So maybe I don't understand because we're still talking. You would think we would talk longer without a camera on us, but for some reason that's, like, not the case. So maybe we need to start trying audio and see what happens.
We'll see what views we get.
Yeah. But ultimately, the other thing I kind of want to know is, do we just make this a movie review podcast?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's lulls in the movies coming out, but
we can watch all
recently there's been a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something where we just put it out as the movies come out, which means, it wouldn't necessarily be consistent either, but people could tune in when they know that a movie's being released.
Exactly.
So, because if we're just going to record podcasts like this is kind of fun.
This is easy and fun, and it should be easy and fun.
Well,
Cool.
thanks for tuning in. Make
Thanks,
sure that
people.
you give us a review.
Yep.
Make sure if you know anybody who's usually watches on YouTube, send them the Apple Podcast or
Yeah.
Spotify. And yeah,
We'd love the feedback.
we'll see you next. Well,
Week,
you'll hear
maybe.
us next
Yeah.
time on the
Everyday Creative Podcast. She did finger guns. Good job.
Good job.
That was easy and fun.